Hey everyone, and welcome to another First Impressions video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be talking about the newly debuted Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. This series is a seinen fantasy that has been running in the Morning 2 magazine since 2016. It's currently ongoing and has 4 volumes in Japan. I would definitely recommend it just from this first volume for people who are fans of similar types of seinen, things like The Ancient Mogus's Bride, Run in the Grey World, even series like Little Witch Academia and Girl from the Other Side. The story is set in this world where magic is quite common, but is only known by a handful of a secretive sort of association called witches. It's not common knowledge, and we follow our protagonist Coco, who's always been enamored with this idea of magic. Although she lives a fairly mundane life with her mother, she's always wished that she could be a witch and perform magic, but really doesn't have any expectations to be able to do that in the future. This real love for magic was inspired in childhood when she met a mysterious individual on the streets of the city who gave her a picture book and a pen full of ink and told her magic is real and that she should be able to do so with these gifts. Since then, she doesn't really have any true knowledge and doesn't really know what that's meant to mean or supposed to do, but she's held on hope her whole life to be able to do magic. Although recently she's come to terms with the fact that she probably isn't going to be able to. Unexpectedly, one day though, she does come across an actual witch within her store that her mother runs, and he, through a various series of events, has to perform some magic to fix a levitating carriage. Even though magic is so hidden and quiet and kept away from normal people, she manages to sneak in and actually observe how he is able to do magic, and she realizes that it's through this series of illustration and drawing that magic is actually able to occur. Realizing this, she sort of has this eureka moment where the picture book and the pen that she was given as a child may actually be a secret guide or spell book for magic. And so after everyone has left and in the middle of the night, she practices it herself and tries to figure out what spell is which in this mysterious book. And unfortunately, due to not really understanding anything and there not being any clear instructions, she does a spell that actually sort of destroys her home and crystallizes her mother. And she's only spared from the same fate by Quifri, this earlier witch, returning and coming back for her and saving her from this terrible crystallization spell. Because the spell book in of itself is very mysterious and has a whole bunch of unknown spells, neither of them are really able to reverse it. So instead, Quifri takes on Coco as sort of like one of his underlings, someone for him to teach and allow her to become a witch within her own right. So she joins his atelier and in hopes to become a witch herself and also to study magic and able to reverse what she unwittingly did to her home, to her mother. And she also learns that magic involving the human body, things that can change, like that she performed, is forbidden, and that there's very strict rules on what magic can be performed because in the past, because of magic, there was a lot more conflict, a lot more wars, a lot more people were affected by magic. And that's one of the reasons, or the paramount reason as to why magic has stayed as this hidden art for so long. Joining the atelier, she meets 3 other young girls who are also training to become witches themselves, and she doesn't have, obviously, the training that they do, so she's really an outlier being brought into this world, and as such, she doesn't necessarily get along with everyone, and they don't really expect much from her in return. Conversely, because she doesn't have any formal prior training, Coco is a lot more imaginative, a lot more versatile, and has to be a lot more creative with creating spells and being able to perform magic. She doesn't have the tried true, rote learning that the other girls do, but that doesn't mean that she's incapable of learning. And because of that, her creativity and her ability to adapt magic for her needs is a lot higher, and you see that throughout this entire book. It's really, really interesting, and you can see how Coco, despite being this newcomer, despite being thrust into this world sort of unwillingly, is being shown as sort of a breath of fresh air, and as mentioned to be the potential that can lead the witches to find out where this leak, where this magic book that she was given as a child may have come from, in order to prevent problems from rising up again if magic became common knowledge. It's a beautifully done series. I highly, highly recommend it. I was really anticipating this first volume, and it did not disappoint me. Shirahama is a gorgeous, gorgeous artist. The illustration within this book is beautiful and is definitely one to keep an eye out for if that's something you particularly value. Inside the book, as I said, the illustration is absolutely gorgeous, incredibly captivating, incredibly detailed, and I love how the story incorporates illustration or art as a means to creating magic. In the ending sort of notes, the artist or mangaka says that the idea spawned from a comment that their friend made about how illustration or the process of creating art was almost like magic, and that's really what gave them the idea to start this series. There's also a really interesting thing in this first volume about how witches or good witches are the peaked caps. So they have this pointy cap that you see on the cover here, and then comparatively the bad witches, the ones they want to find and prevent from causing havoc, are called the brimmed hats, which I would suspect come from the more traditional idea of witches' hats with the very wide brim around. I really, really look forward to seeing more from this story, and I hope, like everyone else, that it continues to be so wonderful. I have heard nothing but good things about this series, and it was one of my most highly anticipated debuts for the year, and it did not disappoint. As I mentioned before, this is a great series, and I would highly, highly recommend you try it, especially if you're a fan of series like The Ancient Magus's Bride, Ran in the Grey World, Little Witch Academia, and even, although not completely one for one, The Girl from the Other Side, which has a similar feeling to it. I'm not quite sure how to explain it. But really, really, really lovely to see more of this fantasy seinen coming out in English, and considering the reputation of this series, it definitely lived up to the hype. Shirahama is a fantastic writer, a fantastic artist, and I cannot wait to read more. The potential for creativity and for the way that this character's arc is possible to go is endless. I really have high hopes. I enjoyed this volume so much. I really enjoyed how Coco's prior training and prior life experiences came into this particular volume and showed an obvious way that she is able to adapt to her new surroundings despite not having the prior training that the other girls have. And it's really, really interesting to see this sort of interpretation of magic. I definitely agree with Shirahama's friend about this idea of illustration and art being a form of magic that some people can't even comprehend. It's done really, really well and in a very clever twist. I think a lot of people who are very invested in sort of magic systems will also be interested in this because it is very well established and very well explained as well. So yes, from just this first volume, I'm already highly anticipating volume 2 and the subsequent series volumes. I really liked this, and I, as I said, cannot wait for more. So those are my thoughts on the first volume of Witch Hat Atelier. Let me know your thoughts if you're interested in this series. If you haven't heard of this series before, let me know. I love reading your comments, and I do try to reply to all of them. As always, my Twitter link is in the description if you want to message me via there, as is my Book Depository affiliate link, which is where I bought this particular book. Wonderful service, wonderful worldwide shipping, and really great customer service too. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.